Hey, what's up Exiles, and welcome back to a brand new build guide. For this video we have yet another Cyclone build guide, because right now Cyclone is officially my favorite melee skill, and I'm pretty sure that also applies to many of you watching this video. This is my second Cyclone build in a time span of 10 days. The previous one was a Berserker, just like pure damage Berserker that killed everything it touches in 5 seconds. Some map bosses even died in 1 second. Shaper, Elder, Circe, they die in 5 to 6 seconds. Just like a glass cannon Cyclone. It was expensive and it was just like damage. It didn't feel very good to play because it has like no area effect whatsoever. It was a glass cannon because it has abysses, and yeah, it's just like any other Berserker build that it isn't Warcry. Again, it had lots of damage, but it didn't feel like good to play because like it wasn't as fast as a Slayer. And yeah, today we have a Slayer here because I've always avoided to play generic style builds like everyone plays Cyclone as a Slayer. And yeah, let's talk about this build. Starting with the passive tree. We are a duelist ascended into a Slayer. First you go for impact. This one gives you all the accuracy you need while leveling, in addition to 5% increased area effect per enemy killed, up to 50%. Enemies count are the one killed in the past 4 seconds. You also get +2 melee strike range. Cyclone scales by 8% increased area effect for every 1 point in melee strike range. So this node basically gives Cyclone 66% increased area effect. And yeah, that's why we go for this one first. The increased area effect will help you clear things faster because you don't have to walk next to everything in order to kill it. Now you just like have to pass next to it, and the increased area effect will just kill everything. Next you go for Headsman. This one makes you immune to reflected physical damage. It gives you 10% damage and 20% damage against unique enemies. So basically, if you kill something and then like immediately engage a unique enemy, that's 30% more damage against that unique boss. Finally, we have Bane of Legends, which comes after Headsman. This one basically gives you 20% culling strike, twice as efficient as the normal culling strike, and gives you 10% attack speed and 10% movement speed, like after you kill stuff. Once you get your weapon, which is Starforge, you go for Overwhelm. It gives you 2.5% effective crit chance on the top of Starforge 5%. So this node is basically an improved version of increased critical strike support gem, which gives you 2.5% base crit compared to the one that you get from the support gem. Now, this one also gives you 10% crit multi for every nearby enemy, up to 100%. And that's like lots of added damage. So this node alone ends up being more efficient than a support gem, which is usually not the case with other nodes, like from other ascendancies. So yeah, that's it. Like a generic ascendancy for a Slayer. We are not going to leech in this build. We have generic regeneration that allows us to sustain in combination with the vitality mod on a Watcher's Eye, the increased life recovery rate mod, which is, yeah, it's just like not as efficient as leech, but we don't need to invest into leech at all with this build. We just like have some regeneration, the Watcher's Eye mod, and Blood Rage, and that gives us all the sustain we will ever need. So passive tree. Start with physical damage. We have life and evasion armor. We go take all the good notables that the Slayer has. We are wielding a two-handed weapon, so we take the two-handed weapon cluster over here. We take life, jewel socket. We have impale cluster over here. This one is more efficient than this one, despite the fact that it costs one more node to take this route, because increased impale effect is more efficient than 10% chance to impale. I have 95% chance to impale in this build, so I don't really need to take this node. Instead, I just like take increased impale effectiveness. We have increased area effect and added strike range, which again is more area effect for Cyclone. We have crit clusters, the one over here and the one over here. They give you lots of crit chance and crit multi, which is one of the advantages of being a melee crit build. We have a cluster jewel setup over here. You would want to get one with either increased damage with swords or increased damage with two-handed weapons, because both can roll deep cuts. It gives you +1 impale. I have around 100% increased impale effectiveness in this build. One impale stack is basically 10% more damage. So now this notable over here gives us a bit more than 20% more damage with the over 100% increased impale effectiveness I have in this build. In combination with the 15% chance to impale, if your chance to impale isn't already 100%. Mine is 95%, so it's not really a big difference. So yeah, you will try to have this one. It doesn't really matter if you are able to spawn this one and the 2 jewel sockets. It doesn't like matter a lot what is your final notable or what are the other notables that you spawn, because deep cuts alone, like it is worth it to go for this one alone, even if the other notables weren't as good. So we have double medium cluster jewels over here. Both of them are area damage because they can roll magnifier. This one gives you 10% area damage, area effect, and crit multi. That's a powerful combination for a single notable. I have double magnifiers. I have assert dominance over here. It gives you a total of 25% increased area effect after killing a bunch of monsters, and 10% area damage. Here I have Titanic Swings, gives us 15% area effect, but you don't have to do anything. You always get that amount of area effect even if you didn't kill anything. And finally I have normal jewels over here. I didn't decide to go for smaller cluster jewels because really they aren't as efficient for damage and life. Where they are more efficient for life, but they will not be as efficient for life and damage compared to just like using a socket for a normal jewel. And don't forget that you have to invest additional points to like take the added passive nodes, and you will lose the jewel socket at the end. So I decided to go with normal jewels instead of smaller cluster jewels. And yeah, that's it. Just like +1 impale and lots of area damage scaling. I have sword crit nodes over here. We have life, we have sword damage nodes, more life. We have the Juggernaut nodes for defense, the armor, elemental resistances, lots of life. We have versatility node. This one is very powerful, 5% attack speed, 20% crit chance, 20 to dexterity and intelligence, all these stats you really need. And we have the small amount of node cluster over here for two-handed weapon damage. And we go to the middle for constitution, pretty straightforward for melee life builds. And yeah, that's it. That's the passive tree. You can copy it from the POB link in the description. For items, I have a Starforged. This is a budget two-handed weapon. Now, when I say budget, I don't mean like cheap. I mean like for what you get. Now, you are paying... I paid 8 exalts for this one. 6 linked already. So, I'm paying 8 exalts for around 700 physical DBS weapon with 100 life. And for 8 exalts, if you want to pay an equal amount for a rare two-handed sword, you will get less damage and no life. In addition, Starforged give you shock with physical damage, 20% increased area effect for attacks. So unless you are like going for a mirror tier two-handed weapon, it isn't really worth it, to be honest. Like just go for Starforged. Although it's not cheap, it's still like way better than like going for an expensive two-handed crafted two-handed weapon. But again, if you are just like going ham on damage, then you could go for a mirror tier two-handed sword. It's up to you. You could dual wield if you want for damage, but you will lose the 20% area effect. Again, you will lose the life and the shock with physical damage. For gems I have over here, I have a secondary setup. It's not my main attack setup. I have a blood magic linked with 3 skills that usually requires mana, but now they use life instead. It's linked with Leap Slam, Blood Rage, and Summon Stone Golem, and these 2 are linked with faster attacks and Fortify. Leap Slam will give us Fortify. It will also give our Golem Fortify, so that now our Golem is a bit tankier. We don't have to like micromanage it as frequently. And faster attacks will also allow our Golem to attack faster. Not like that matters, but the most important thing is that all of these 3 skills now does not require any mana to be used. This is important because we have reserved all of our mana. Our Cyclone also costs no mana because we have the channeling skills have -3 to total mana cost to craft on all of our jewelries. So yeah, that's actually better than having the -15 total mana cost on your chest piece. So that's for weapon. Chest piece, we have a Cyclone setup over here. We have Cyclone linked with Impale. Now I have 6 Impale stacks at 100% effectiveness, and I have 100% chance to impale, almost 100%. And so this gem ends up being 160% more damage in this build, in addition to the reduced physical damage reduction debuff for enemies against impale hits. So again, impale is the most powerful physical damage scaling mechanic in the game, and you should be really utilizing this with Slayer to achieve damage levels that rivals even the Berserker. Next we have Pulverize. Pretty straightforward area damage, area effect. It's still more powerful even with the less attack speed. Next we have Infused Channeling. Again, pretty straightforward, lots of damage while spinning, in addition to 8% less physical damage taken while channeling. Increased area effect support. Now, if you cannot afford to get the Awakened version, then simply don't use this. The difference between the Awakened version and the non-Awakened version is the up to 15% more area damage, which actually makes this gem viable to be used in like your main 6-link setup. So if you cannot afford the Awakened version, then just like take this one out and use a close combat support gem. If you feel like you don't want to sit at the top of bosses because that might be dangerous, then just use melee physical damage support gem. Finally, I have Brutality, because with Starforge you will be only dealing physical damage, and Brutality also does the same thing, so you are already dealing like pure physical damage, so why not use Brutality? So yeah, we have Awakened increased area effect support. If you don't want to use this, then simply go for melee physical damage or close combat support gem. For mods on your chest piece, I have an Explode mod, because that's powerful, as it actually allows Cyclone to be an even safer version to be played with, because when enemies die from the explosion caused by this mod, it will make it so that some death effects will not trigger. This is powerful because sometimes you will die due to like the activated death effect that deals maybe physical damage to you, and yeah, with this mod, monsters, they will just like poof once you kill them. I have base crit over here. As you can see, since I don't have to invest into socketed gems, I have minus 15 total mana cost. Now I can freely get a damage mod on my chest piece, and in this case it ended up being the 1.5 base crit to attacks. I have a resistance, and it's nice that I was able to craft life, in addition to a decent percentage strength roll. So yeah, that's it for chest piece. For rings and amulet, we have, again, channeling skills have minus 3 to total mana cost. I went with an Elder Ring because it can roll up to 30 plus increased melee damage. In addition, I got a high intelligence roll on this one, because you will need at least 55 plus intelligence roll in this build to be able to afford using your blue gems. This one requires 117 intelligence, and as a Slayer who invests into strength and dexterity, will be greatly lacking on intelligence. Like, not even this alone is enough for me, so I had to invest into even 60 plus intelligence to be able to afford leveling my Awakened increased area effect support. You cannot afford to drop Infused Channeling, so you will have to invest into some intelligence in this build. My second ring is a Shaper ring, because it can roll a level 12 Assassin's Mark curse on hit. This one gives you additional base crit against enemies, in addition to giving you power charges as you kill monsters affected by this curse. So it's basically free power charges as you kill stuff, in addition to base crit. Enemies take increased critical damage from you, so like there's really no reason not to have this with any crit build. For amulet, I have an Elder Amulet with 2 suffixes and 1 prefix. This 1 prefix is increased area effect, which is an Elder mod. Now, why I wanted 2 empty prefixes? Because I wanted to deliberately multi-mod into 2 powerful prefixes. One of them is increased area effect and area damage in a 1 hybrid mod, and the other is channeling skills have minus 3 total mana cost. You will need to have this on all of your jewelries to have Cyclone requires literally no mana to be used, and in conjunction with the blood magic support setup that we had with Leap Slam, Blood Rage, and Summon Stone Golem, now you don't need to use mana at all in this build. So we end up reserving all of our mana for like useful skills that gives you benefit for your reserved mana. For your gloves, we have a spiked gloves because it has 20% melee damage implicit. Here I have a accuracy roll, which you will need at least 400 plus accuracy roll on one of your items. The easiest place to get this is on your gloves, obviously, because that will be the breaking point with the passive tree I have provided you to reach above 3500 accuracy total, and this will give you over 95% chance to hit monsters of level 83 and above. So you'll need accuracy, and that will be your top priority. You can also craft attack speed on your gloves, or just like have it roll naturally up to 16%, and you will try to have life on it in conjunction with the attack speed and accuracy rating. And you can try to Exalt Slam your gloves with the Crusader Orb. It will have 50% chance to give you global crit chance up to 30%. I was unlucky and got the lowest roll, but it's not difficult to simply get crit chance because it's 50-50 chance. Crusader can only roll 2 things on gloves. One of them is crit chance, so it will take you around 2 to 3 attempts to get something like this in combination with some chaos spamming. For gems here, I have Cast When Damage Taken setup linked with Precision, Molten Shell, Dread Banner. Now Cast When Damage Taken is basically only here to trigger Molten Shell, and I have Precision and Dread Banner because I needed some extra sockets. For boots, I have movement speed, life, resistances, and 2% life regen if you have been hit recently. Lab enchant. This is one way to sustain without leech, so you should try to get this one. It will not be difficult. It takes around 5 attempts on Uberlab to get the 2% life regen enchant, so it will take like 1 to 2 hours from your time, but it will be worth it. Here I have a portal setup linked with Cast on Death. Like, this is really not mandatory. I don't even die with this build. And I have another portal setup with faster casting. For belt, I have Stygian Vice with life, resistances, and crafted damage prefix. Just a generic like end game Stygian Vice. And for Abyss Jewel, you need life, crit chance if you can, and increased attack speed if you have dealt a crit recently. It synergizes perfectly with the crit chance mod, and you will be always dealing critical strike in this build, especially that we have a diamond flask, so that's a permanent 8% increased attack speed. For helm, we have Devotor's Devotion. That's a pretty generic option with any Slayer build because 20% movement speed on a helm, that's nothing to scoff at. The 16% attack speed, it's almost like an onslaught effect from a helm that stacks with another onslaught effect. So that's really a no-brainer to have. You should try to get increased attack speed, increased cyclone attack speed, lab enchant on your helm, but that will be expensive on this one in particular. I will not recommend using abysses in this build because what really makes it safe compared to the Berserkers one is that it does not use abysses. If you use abysses with like any amount of life below 7,000, you will get one-shotted from time to time. So just like use Devotos, the damage difference is here, but it isn't major, and you will be able to live without it. For gems in our helm, we have a primary aura setup. We have level 4 Enlighten linked with Blood and Sand. We're using Sand stance when we are mapping, and Blood stance for bosses. We have Vitality, and finally Pride. If you don't have the life recovery mod on your Watcher's Eye, then drop Vitality and maybe use the other skill that synergizes with Blood and Sand, and keep it on blind with the Sand stance. For jewels, we have life and increased attack speed with swords as your prefixes. Starting from here, you can either get increased attack speed as a suffix, you could have melee crit chance or crit multi, you could have increased area damage, you can have even more intelligence if you still need some, you can have elemental resistances if you need some of them. And yeah, that's it for your jewels. For flasks, I have a Quicksilver flask with immunity to curses because I don't want to be interrupted with curses like Temp Chain and Enfeeble while mapping. I have a Sulfur flask because I have sufficient life recovery. If you are having problem restoring your life, then just like use a life flask instead of this one. But make sure to roll immunity to bleed on either of them because we don't have immunity to bleed in this build. We have a Diamond Flask because we are crit build, so it's a no-brainer. We have an Onslaught Flask because we don't have a way to get Onslaught in this build. I have rolled increased movement speed here for even faster mapping experience. And finally, we have Lion's Roar for 2 reasons. Aside from the increased melee attack damage, it also gives you knockback on hit, and Cyclone is a skill that hits very frequently, which means that with the amount of area effect we have, we will be able to fend off all monsters from hitting us on melee range. So it's an indirect added extra layer of defense from a single flask. So yeah, it's very good to have. It's not very expensive, so you should be able to get one for yourself. And yeah, that's it for flasks. For bandits, I have decided to help Alira for the crit multi. The elemental resistances are nice, and the mana regeneration will help you sustain while leveling. For Pantheons, I have the Soul of Lunaris for the added movement speed and fizz damage reduction while mapping. And for the minors, I have the Soul of Shakari for the immunity to poison. And yeah, that's it for the build. If you guys have enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, maybe turn on notifications so you don't miss any future build guides like this one. My name is Phoenix, and I will see you all in the next video.